Sounds good. Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Emily Bayata. I am the Park and Recreation Director for Springfield Township. Just a couple things before we get started. I wanted to give a little bit of background on the process that we're going under. Um, so in January of 2023, the Springfield Township Board of Commissioners developed the Recreation Center Advisory Committee to go through the process to determine if the site located at 1200 Willow Grove Avenue in Wyndmoor should be rebuilt or remodeled. Now, through this process, the committee has been responsible for vetting several different architecture firms, which led us to March of 2024 when the Board of Commissioners awarded a contract to MKSD Architects of Allentown, who are now hosting our session tonight. So the MKSD Architects will be working with us to cultivate a feasibility study, do community research and data collection, and provide design services. Now, this is an informational session, just really trying to provide a landscape of what we're going to expect through this process. Now, while we won't be answering questions live in this session, we encourage you to put your questions in the chat. Anyone who puts a question there will be, it won't be visible to anybody else, and we will cultivate those answers and put them on the township website. With that, we're going to pass it off to MKSD Architects.
Thank you, Emily. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great, thank you. So let's just start off with the committee. Springfield Township created a Recreation Center Advisory Committee, which you might hear shortened as RCAC. And the objective of this RCAC will be to assist with the creation of a master plan for the future use and possible renovations to the Recreation Center and to provide technical advice and recommendations on the selection of an architect. So far they have already selected MKSD along with Ballard King. And with that, they came up with a few guiding principles, let's say. So the first one is the Recreation Center must have a strong community focus, and the Recreation Center must serve all age groups and support diversity, equity, and inclusion. The committee hosts public meetings throughout the year on the first Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. at the Free Library of Springfield Township. So here's the agenda for this evening's meeting. We'll take a brief moment for introductions in a minute. Then we're going to talk about the existing recreation center. We're going to talk about what a feasibility study is, what's the purpose of the feasibility study, a timeline for the project, and finally, what are the next steps? So with that, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ryan Kennedy. I'm Senior Project Manager for MKSD Architects. I will turn it over to Sylvia. I did have to mute everyone because I was getting some feedback. So Sylvia, you should be able to speak now.
Thanks, Ryan. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sylvia Hoffman. I'm a partner at MKSD Architects. I have 27 years of experience in recreation and community center design, and I'm excited to be on the team and working with all of you.
I'm Isabella Parker. I'm an interior designer at MKSD Architects, and I'm also very excited to be working with all of you.
And good evening. I'm Ken Ballard with Ballard King and Associates. We're a recreation planning firm that focuses on feasibility studies for indoor recreation facilities, and we'll be focusing more on the operational aspects of the project.
Great, thank you. Now, some background on the site. If someone's not familiar with the site, there's an image of it on the right-hand side. To get your bearings, East Willow Grove Avenue is to the southwest side of the site, and Laurel Beach Park is to the northeast side of the site. This site was purchased in 2015 to serve as the temporary township municipal building and free library of Springfield Township during the construction of the 1510 Paper Mill Road complex. The location is 1200 East Willow Grove Avenue in Wyndmoor. It adjoins a township property, which is Laurel Beach Park, which is 6.36 acres. The lot itself is 1.6 acres, and it contains 3 buildings. The first building is the Recreation Center A, as it's referred to, and it's used as a gymnasium. The second building is Recreation B, which is the previous church, the former library, and now it's used for more gathering spaces. And finally, the rectory, which is not currently being used by the township. Here's a list of current and past usage by the Recreation Department in those 2 buildings that we just referred to as Building A and Building B. Martial arts, yoga, ceramic workshops, in-service play day, schools out, pottery camp, running club, drawing classes, drama club, soccer clinic, chess camp, creative constructors camp, superhero camp, cheerleading, flag football, basketball, and geoventures camp. The next item we'd like to talk about is what is a feasibility study? So a feasibility study evaluates the current condition of your township's facility and operations through the following steps. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Ken to talk about operations, market analysis, and the public input aspect of feasibility studies.
Yes, a major front-end work on this project that we've already underway on is really looking at the market aspects of this particular potential facility. You have an existing market now, certainly serving the needs of the township are number one. So we've looked at the demographic makeup of the township and the area immediately surrounding that would potentially be served by either a renovation of the existing facility or new. We also want to know what other opportunities people have for similar types of amenities and uses in the area. So we do kind of an inventory of the other providers in the area to understand what's available and what the price points are for different services, those types of things. So that's a real important baseline of information that we work from through this process. In the end, when we go through all of this determination of what this should be, on the backside of it, then we develop an operations plan that says whatever comes out of this, potentially from the study standpoint, we will determine, what it's going to cost to operate, what the staffing needs, the types of programs and services that will take place there. So from the township's perspective, they know what it's going to take to operate whatever option moves potentially forward out of this. One of the other major pieces that's really important in this whole process, and we'll talk more about this a little later on, is really hearing from the community. And many of you on the call tonight, hopefully will be part of this process as we move forward in a number of different ways. We've already started some stakeholder meetings. We'll be having some community meetings coming up. And again, the Rec Center Advisory Board has its monthly meeting as well, which is another form of input. So we certainly want to hear from the public, understand what they would like to see, what their issues and concerns are with this project. So those are important parts of the project that we'll be doing. Ballard King will doing a large part of the analysis on those 3 areas. Ryan?
Thank you, Ken. So after we do those 3 aspects, we should be able to come up with component determination. And what that is coming up with the program for the building. So this is just arbitrary. However, we might hear that the township might benefit from a gymnasium, from a few multi-purpose rooms, from a catering kitchen, things like that. After we do that, we're going to look at the existing buildings that are on the site, the 3 buildings that exist. We're going to look at what repairs they need right now, what repairs they might need in 5 to 10 years. With that, we can come up with an analysis of, is it worth keeping the buildings and reusing them for the recreation center? As Emily said in the beginning of this presentation, the feasibility study, basically at the end of it, it's going to say, yes, you should use the 3 buildings that you have, or 2 buildings that you have, or you should build a new recreation facility. Once we come up with the program and we determine that if the buildings cannot be used, then we'll come up with a concept floor plan and site plan of how this site and building could actually look and how it could function. And then lastly, opinion of probable cost. We might have a few different options for concepts, so we'll have multiple options of probable cost. This will all be done with the third-party cost estimator. This is their only job, so they're very good at it. So we're trying to get you the most accurate cost possible. What is the purpose of this study? It's an assessment of the existing building conditions, both physically and functionally, to allow us to see what areas of your program are equipped to serve the community and what areas require attention. So again, like I just said, we're going to look at the existing building to see what is the condition of the roof, what is the condition of the walls, when will you need to replace the finished carpeting, that sort of thing. We're also going to look at it from a functionality standpoint. I know right now that there are in the gymnasium, they play volleyball, basketball. Is that space big enough to safely and functionally efficiently play those sports? The final report will provide the township with the information needed to further explore fundraising and/or construction. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Sylvia.
Thank you. Just a reminder to everyone, we're very happy to answer all of your questions. Projects like this definitely get a lot of interest from the community and a lot of questions. But since we're so early in the beginning of the feasibility study, we ask that you either email your questions to Emily or you put them in the chat. We'll compile them and read them and review them and answer them at a later date. I'd like to talk to you a little further about the existing site. As Ryan mentioned, it's bounded by East Willow Grove and Laurel Beach Park. There are 3 buildings existing on that site right now, and I'm sure many of you use this site for various sporting functions or events, maybe dropping off family members. And those of you who've been there are probably aware that there's not a tremendous amount of parking on this site. It's rather constrained, it's rather limited. So in our study, when analyzing the site, we want to make sure that the parking accommodates the functions of the buildings on that site. So we may be limited on what we're able to do. The square footage of the building is tied to the parking. We certainly don't want people to come to events here or sporting events, bringing their kids for summer camp and not have a place to safely park and enter the building. So that'll be something that we'll be looking at to make sure that we can accommodate. I'd like to talk to you about the project timeline and our work plan and some continued opportunities that we're going to make available to the community as public meetings. The first thing that I want to mention is yesterday we had a great session at the township offices with various user groups, talking to them about how they might use a facility if they had the type of environment that they would need, whether for meetings, for sporting events, for seniors, for younger families with children. So we had a great session and took a lot of great information from that. Today is the first public meeting on September 19th. All the blue boxes are the public meetings, so you'll have some other opportunities to hear more about the project and give your input. Tomorrow, we're continuing with our end user meetings that will include the school district and other local nonprofit groups that may make use out of this building. On October 3rd, we have a public committee meeting at 6 p.m. We'll also be at Community Day on October 6th with a tent. Our firm will be there not only to engage the community in some fun activities, to maybe introduce some younger children to architecture and doing some fun activities, but also to take information from residents as far as what they would like to see in a community building like this. We'll have another public outreach meeting at the existing recreation center on October 23rd, and then another public meeting on November 7th at 6 p.m. That will be followed up by November 20th, public outreach meeting at the township, and then a public committee meeting at 6 p.m. on December 5th. The goal is that in January, once we're completed with all of our research, we've had all of our interviews, all of our public input, we'll have a presentation of the phase 1 research data collection and needs assessment on January 14th. That will be followed up with monthly meetings at 6 p.m. that take place at the Township Building, and a final presentation of the report to the Board of Commissioners on April 14th, 2025. To talk to you a little bit about what are the next steps. One of the most important questions we have is, will we rehab these buildings or will we rebuild them? Once we're completed with the feasibility study of the project, which will be in April of 2025, at that point, we would need to have a decision to move forward, whether we're going to reuse what's there or tear them down and build a new building. And the design process will probably take an additional year to get all of the construction documents in order. After that, it will probably be about 16 months to construct the project. So we're looking at an occupancy date for that project, should it move forward, of 2027. At this point, we don't have any information on how much the project will cost. That's something that has to be determined through the feasibility study process. And of course, any spending will have to be approved by the Board of Commissioners before that happens. We want to make sure that we're making good use of the dollars through this feasibility study and making sure that this community center will last you well into the future. So you'll hear about those ideas and concepts and goals as the project moves on. I'm going to turn this over to Isabella. She's going to go over some conceptual design ideas of spaces that might be in the building. As I mentioned, we don't have any predetermined notions of what will fit on the site yet or what might be there, but these are some spaces that we've done in other communities that may function well on this site.
Thank you, Sylvia. I just want to state that these are examples from other facilities, but the first one being is a gymnasium. So we kind of look at this as a multi-purpose space. You know, it could be really flexible to cater the needs of the community. So having flexible seating, hard floor courts for recreation activities and training, even for specific fitness programs, you can host them here. Really just being kind of the space that can kind of encapsulate multiple sports and activities. The next one being a multi-purpose room. So this could be used for conferencing, parks and rec activities. It could also act as a fitness space, whether it's yoga, or even like a stretching class, or even a classroom where arts and crafts can take place, or if you need a space to play cards, or even for birthday parties, just a place for the community to kind of have that flexibility as well and use these rooms for different uses. So the other is the idea of the indoor-outdoor gathering space. So you can have a check-in area for the users of this building, for the program users, and also having a lounge area for people waiting, whether they're picking kids up from sports activities or just kind of another gathering space. But it's also the secure entry point that connects the outside to the interior of the building, you know, kind of rehabbing the existing playground, and then also just being an area where people have that connecting point that kind of leads them into the other areas of the building. The other being an indoor track. So this would be really great during the winter months. You know, if it's too cold to walk outside, you have this use of the indoor track inside where people can go and kind of get in their fitness mode and have the opportunity to use the space. And then even for sports activities. And of course, this would have an elevator access as well. And then I'll turn it back over to Sylvia.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate to everyone, we're in the very early stages of the planning of this project. Your input is really important to us. And as you can see on the screen, we have various touch points that we're available to you to hear your feedback, to hear your comments, to hear your ideas, to make sure we can accommodate as many of you as we can with this new project. I hope to see all of you at Community Day on October 6th. We'll be there with some other staff members from MKSD, looking forward to engaging you. And you will have the other opportunities to come to public committee meetings and other public outreach meetings as well. And we'll have this information on the township website as well, so that you're aware of when those are taking place and where. Okay, we appreciate everybody's time tonight. On the last slide, you'll see Emily's email there. I'm sure she's very prepared and waiting for all of you to send your questions in, and we look forward to working with you. Okay. Thank you, everyone.